do you think about conflict?
Well, I would like to define conflict as an argument, getting in a fight with someone. Generally, it's really annoying because you're fighting with someone. It's aggravating. Makes me grumpy.
Okay. What conflicts have you encountered in the workplace?
I've gotten into arguments with coworkers when I thought they were disrespecting our clients and like making jokes about them and stuff like this, which are really inappropriate. And I get very offended when people make fun of people with special needs. Like, it actually makes me want to hit someone. So those are the conflicts I've had, and they were like screaming matches.
How did you resolve these conflicts?
We usually had to have someone come in and like tell us to stop and calm us down, because I would get very heated because I'm very opinionated in that. And it was kind of like a mediator, I guess, and we're going to negotiate what we were talking about, because there were two people at camp, and yeah, we just could not talk, so usually a third party helped.
Thank you.
Oops.
What do you think about conflict?
I think conflict can be a good thing as long as you have a resolution.
Okay. What kind of conflicts have you encountered in the workplace?
Well, at my last job, me and my boss were very similar, so we clashed a lot. So we ended up getting arguments, and sometimes it was in front of customers, and it wasn't necessarily.
How did you resolve that conflict?
We just ended up talking to each other aside from the customers, and we discussed that, yeah, okay, we are similar, but we discussed on how that can work to our benefit, and so we ended up working more with each other than against each other.
Thank you so much. Conflict.
I think that there's always going to be conflict, and the important thing is to reason it out and get it out of the way, and not just let it simmer.
What conflicts have you encountered in the workplace?
Sometimes me and my boss sort of fight over who has what responsibility.
What did you do to resolve that conflict?
Well, we usually try to reason it out logically and come to some sort of reasonable conclusion.
Okay, thank you very
It can be
much.
a positive experience. It occurs everywhere you look, at school, at home, and at work.
Conflict in the workplace is very important to address because it occurs on a daily basis, and many people don't know what to do about it.
There are several ways that people deal with conflict. These include competing, accommodating, avoiding, compromising, and collaborating.
Competing is when you pursue what you want at the cost of another person.
Accommodating is when a person gives in to what the other person wants.
Avoiding is when a person suppresses or hides feelings that may create a conflict.
Compromising is when both parties come to a solution that partly satisfies both of them.
And collaboration is when a person expresses their feelings and interests, but also wants to understand the other person's interests as well.
Here's an example of someone who uses the avoiding technique when faced with a
What do
conflict.
you think about conflict?
I don't like it.
What conflicts have you encountered in the workplace?
We had a rookie who wouldn't do any work and I had to do it all.
And then how did you resolve this conflict?
I ignored it.
Thank you
To
very
deal
much.
with conflict, you can ignore it, withdraw from it, use physical force, ask a higher power such as your supervisor, or you can negotiate with them. Some people ignore the conflict altogether, thus tolerating the current conflict.
People also withdraw by removing themselves from the conflict situation, such as fight response.
They can also fight about taking unilateral action by using physical force, coercion, intimidation, or threats to get what they want.
People may also litigate and appeal to a higher authority to decide what will be done to respond and change the conflict situation, such as lawyers, judges, and
Think
parents.
about conflict.
I think it's negative. You should always try and resolve it whenever you have conflict.
What kind of conflicts have you encountered in the workplace?
I got fired from my current job actually, for a reason that was invalid. So, yeah.
What did you do to resolve that conflict?
I am fortunate enough to have a union, so we brought my manager to court over it. So what happened was we had an arbitrator. So the arbitrator came in, and the facts of either side of the case were both laid out, and then the arbitrator made a decision based on the facts.
Awesome.
Thank
By
you.
communicating with others about the conflict in order to effect some change that will improve or resolve the conflict situation. However, there are different ways we can deal with this conflict.
The three main ways to resolve disputes There's the power-based approach, the right-based approach, and the interest-based approach.
Power-based approach has two different branches, unilateral action and authoritative command. Unilateral action is when one of the parties in a dispute decides to perform an act to achieve an outcome they desire without the cooperation of the other disputing party. This may involve any number of techniques to achieve the desired outcome, example by using force. People in mafia or people on strike sometimes use this.
The other branch is authoritative command. This is a dispute resolved by a third party who has a degree of authority over the disputing parties. The third party is not forced to follow any rules in resolving the dispute, for example, your mother, teacher, or your boss.
The rights-based approach has two different branches as well, adjudication and arbitration. Adjudication is formal and the disputes are resolved by an impartial third party, such as a state-appointed judge, with no personal interest in the outcome of the dispute. Adjudication is different than authoritative command because the judge has no authority over the disputing parties. Their decision-making power is restricted to the specific question of law or fact.
The other right-based approach is arbitration. Arbitration involves an impartial third party. This helps resolve the dispute between the parties, the arbitrator not state-appointed, and most often selected by the parties themselves. It's less formal than adjudication. The rules are more relaxed. And finally, the interest-based approach involves only one branch, mediation.
What do you think about conflicts?
I think conflict is a very bad thing. Sometimes it is needed, but if you can talk things out, hash things through, I think that's the best thing between two parties or a few different parties, and you can become closer with that.
Okay, what kind of conflicts have you encountered in the workplace?
In the workplace, I have encountered several conflicts. Generally, it's due to clashes of different personalities, and whether they're strong-headed. In certain workplaces that I participate and work in, everyone has a strong type of personality, so everyone's very stubborn, everyone has their own opinion. So everyone's butting heads, thinking that this is the way you do it, or that's the way you do it. And when that happens, and everyone thinks they're a chief, like they're a leader, no one follows, so everyone has conflicting ideas.
How do you resolve these conflicts?
By talking them through and thinking about the pros and cons of different suggestions and seeing which is the best thing, and talking it out with the other individual.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Mediation is when parties resolve the dispute between themselves. The mediator is impartial and is not state-appointed, and most often selected by the parties themselves.
Mediation is extremely informal, with basic rules of the process often based on courtesy, and the process is informal, private, and confidential.
When dealing with conflicts in the workplace, there are many different ways you can handle the situation. A judge,
A mediator,
a negotiator,
a friend,
a coworker.
a supervisor.
When using any of these, it is important to be open and honest. I bet you're wondering, how can you tell if your efforts were successful? Has there been a shift in the understanding of the relationship, events, and actions which led to the conflict?
Do the parties have a new perspective on the situation?
Did the parties learn anything?
Is there a new direction?
These tips can help you resolve a conflict in the workplace.